Welcome to the weekly dose of Emuna for Shabbat Kodesh. Today we're going to talk about the Shabbat high. Honoring and delight in Shabbat Kodesh. We have to understand that there's a difference when it's written to us. If you call the Shabbat a delight and Hashem's holy day honored, if you honor it by not doing your business, attending to your affairs, or speaking of weekday matters, then you will delight in Hashem. So let's see how we can attain the Shabbat high. So we can see here from these psukim in the Talmud that there are two commandments that pertain to Shabbat. There's the delighting in Shabbat and there's honoring the Shabbat. And then if we do both the delight and the honor, this leads us to the process, the promise, as we saw when we read this pasuk before. You will delight in Hashem. So in other words, the reward of honoring and delighting in Shabbat is to eventually delight in Hashem. Let's understand this a little bit more. How can we achieve this idea, and what essentially is this pasuk commanding us to do? So when we look at the word honoring, it generally pertains to activities that are exterior to the body. In other words, it's something that I'm doing outside of me. I'm cleaning the house. I'm wearing beautiful royal clothing. Okay, so that has to do with the outer. The delighting of the Shabbat, on the other hand, is related to some sort of internal pleasure, like eating or drinking. Basically, Kabbalistically, what does that mean? That honoring really spiritually illuminates what's called our inner light, which is a light that is a godly light that's shining in every single Jewish soul. And delighting in Shabbat is spiritually illuminating the outer surrounding light. Let's look at it one step even further than calling it just inner and outer light. The inner light actually has to do, for instance, with learning Torah. When a person, for instance, learns Torah, they're illuminating their spiritual light, their inner spiritual light, because the Torah affects them internally by helping them refine their character traits. Yet, on the other hand, when we talk about affecting our outer surrounding light, what we call today the aura, that spiritual light that is like a luminous garment around man, it sort of sensitizes him to his spiritual energy, where that is illuminated and strengthened by a person performing mitzvot, because that has to do, again, we said it's outer, it has to do with the world around us. Generally speaking, mitzvot pertain to doing activities that have to do with deeds that have to do with our outer essence, our relationship with the outer world. The Shabbat gift is that Hashem sends us His amazing radiance. And when we anticipate and we prepare for Shabbat throughout the entire week, when we are focusing and thinking of and concentrating our efforts, our body, our possessions, into the ability to anticipate and hold that Shabbat divine light, we are essentially tapping into Hashem's radiance even during the week. When we acquire clothes that are specially clothing that we wear only for Shabbat and Yom Tovim, we basically are enveloping those garments, injecting into those garments a sort of sense of holiness that uplifts the garments and thus, of course, uplifts us in effect together with the garment itself. So the idea of Shabbat is we first always prepare on the outer, and then eventually when Shabbat comes, we move inward. We delight in Shabbat. We experience the delight in the inside. That which we did on the outside now goes on the inside. And therefore it is so important that whatever we do for Shabbat, there's always a sense of intention, a kavana, that we should acquire holiness, and we should be able to take that outer holiness, that spiritual aura, that surrounding light, and be able to eventually have it permeate inside and illuminate our inner side, our inner part, so that we can essentially feel that we've been connected to it, that it's become a part of us. And so that is the experience of Shabbat. It essentially, what Shabbat does for us is it gives us this ability to have this strong attachment to Hashem and feel as though He's truly a companion of ours. And that's a high. That is essentially the spiritual high that we are able to attain on Shabbat Kodesh. That means that our essence is actually uplifted, and we are becoming holy and holy and holier each Shabbat. So as we take leave of the Shabbat, what we do is we take that energy, we use it for the 6 weeks, it stays with us, and the next Shabbat we build, each Shabbat experience essentially builds on the previous one, to the point that our divine, the awareness of divinity of Hashem is becomes so much a part of us that it even spills through to the weekday consciousness of the following week after Shabbat. And that is the spiritual high. And I wish upon all of us that we should experience this spiritual high, and we should be able to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and feel it spill over and infuse our entire week. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Shalom.